In 2013, Disney released a film that generated $1.27 billion at the global box office. It centered its narrative resolution on a sisterly bond, rather than a romantic rescue, a shift that resonated across the global market. The industry validated that success with 2 Academy Awards. This cemented the film's position in history and established a steep requirement for any potential follow-up. But the 6-year gap between films created a logistical difficulty. The target demographic had grown up, and the filmmakers noted that the audience had matured alongside the brand. A standard sequel risked alienating the viewers who had originally built the franchise. To address this issue, directors Jennifer Lee and Chris Buck, alongside producer Peter Del Vecchio, made a formal creative pact. They agreed to keep the commercial pressure of the billion-dollar predecessor out of the creative room, intending to build the sequel from the character out. Executing this shift meant finding a way to integrate more complex, serious themes into a world that still needed to accommodate a sentient snowman. The screenplay utilized the 4 classical elements: wind, water, earth, and ice as the primary structural mechanism. These elements provided a specific set of requirements for the visual development team. The goal was to achieve a more mature look, which necessitated new technical capabilities for the studio's animation software. This video argues that by leaning into these 4 elements, Disney developed new animation technology, formalized indigenous consultation, and expanded their thematic boundaries. The element of wind required the animators to visualize Gale, a character that is essentially invisible. To show Gale's presence, the team had to animate its effect on everything it touched, from debris to the hair of other characters. The studio developed a proprietary tool named Swoop to handle this. It allowed animators to use a VR wand to draw precise paths of action for Gale to follow through the digital environment. The NOC combined character animation with liquid physics. This diagram shows the 3 layers required: a skeletal structure, a fluid dynamics layer, and specific lighting to ensure it looked like H2O. Merging these layers was a significant task. The fluid dynamics had to convincingly portray water crashing against the moving skeletal structure, requiring constant interdepartmental collaboration. These technical advancements were driven by the story's need to make abstract elemental forces feel like tangible participants in the character's journey. To represent the element of earth, the filmmakers moved the setting into an autumnal forest. The production design was directly influenced by research trips to Norway, Finland, and Iceland to study real-world landscapes and vegetation. This desire for realism extended to the Northuldra people, who were inspired by the indigenous Sami communities of Northern Europe. The Walt Disney Company signed a formal agreement with the Sami Council and the Sami Parliaments of Norway, Finland, and Sweden. This led to the formation of the Verdit, an advisory group of Sami experts who consulted on the depiction of the Northuldra culture. This partnership resulted in the film being dubbed into the North Sami language, making it one of the first feature-length animations available in the language. By grounding the element of earth in actual indigenous consultation, the filmmakers moved away from generic fantasy tropes toward a more specific cultural context. The final element, ice, is manifested as Ahtohallan, an ancient glacier described as a river of memory that holds the absolute truth about the past. When the protagonists reach Ahtohallan, they discover a dark historical truth. The kingdom of Arendelle's security was built on a deception, a dam constructed by their grandfather to weaken the Northuldra's resources and ecosystem. This plot point functions as a geopolitical parable. The dam acts as a physical wedge, representing historical patterns of colonialism and the environmental trauma caused by disrupting natural resource flows. The first film's anthem, Let It Go, focused on personal liberation. The sequel's climax, centered on the song The Next Right Thing, focuses instead on the difficult responsibility of addressing a systemic, inherited wrong. The film's primary antagonist is not a specific villain, but rather the lingering consequences of the family's past actions. The resolution requires the protagonist to destroy the dam. This is an intentional decision to sacrifice the kingdom's own infrastructure to correct the historical injustice committed against the Northuldra. This act of restorative justice is what settles the elemental spirits, allowing the characters to move into roles defined by their actions rather than their inheritance. The film concludes not with a return to the status quo, but with a peace established through reparations and the acknowledgement of uncomfortable truths. Frozen 2 suggests that for a person or a nation, maturation is the process of confronting the dark realities of the past before moving into the unknown.